Who has a question?
In the daily prayer, there's a sentence, humbler than a blade of grass. Why is that?
That's fine. Go ahead.
Why is it compared, humility, why is it compared to grass?
In our opening prayer, we say, may I be humbler than a blade of grass.
Oh.
And why is there a reference to grass?
That's correct.
What is the meaning of that metaphor? Why grass instead of something else that's humble?
You'll have to ask the man that composed it. I didn't compose it. It's a prayer by Sri Gauranga, the Bengali saint, Sri Gauranga, who composed it in the native language Bengali. And this is a translation, so you can blame the translator or you can blame the composer, but not me. I'm afraid the hearing aid is going on.
Don't worry, I've got a loud voice.
Even my translator. Let's have some more questions. This is a very challenging topic this morning.
Gertie has a question.
Well, Swami, I just want to ask for the story about Indra, where the goddess finally comes and reveals. Where is that from?
Where does that story about Indra and the gods that you referenced at the end, where does that come from?
In Kena Upanishad. That's the last part of it. Yes. Then all this philosophy, and then suddenly you're told a mythological story.
So, Swami, is it with reference to Gertie's question, is it fair to say that the story is designed to encapsulate the high philosophy?
Yes, yeah.
To summarize it.
Sure. Everybody thinks that he's the doer of his work. Everybody takes the credit for what he does, or the blame, or should take the blame. Not always does. But you see, neither credit nor blame belongs to us, because we are not the doer. We take the ego aspect of our mind. Mind has 4 aspects, according to us. Memory, judgment, sense transference, things coming in, going out, and ego. And what the ego does is wrap itself around the whole thing and say, mine, I did it, I heard it, I said it, I wrote it, I talked this morning. None of that is true.
In the Bhagavad Gita, the body is compared to a cloth that, is cast away. So why does Brahman like new clothes?
I think he's making a joke. So Kamal points out that in Vedanta there's a reference, I guess in the Bhagavad Gita, to shedding your life being like shedding your clothes.
The old clothes and
getting rid of your old clothes and buying new clothes. So then he's saying, so why does
Brahman like new clothes?
Why does Brahman like new clothes then? I think he's...
Why does
Should I slap him?
Now look, you can't take Brahman and put him on one action and take him off.
Swami, you're familiar with that saying that a foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds? Yeah. Okay. That was good.
All these questions we answered when you get there.
So
problem of evil. If Brahman is behind all actions, how does one philosophically explain the bad actions, the problem of evil?
Because Brahman doesn't have a ruler like yours. You have a ruler that says halfway down, good things, the other halfway down, bad things. And you take that ruler and hold it up to everything. Brahman doesn't have that kind of judgment. Brahman doesn't say anything, but if it could talk, Brahman it's talking all the time, of course. Its attitude is, what you call bad and what you call good changes, varies from country to country, even from political party to political party. I don't have that kind of judgment. I know that everything has come out of me. If it could talk, it would say that. If you were to hear its voice. Suppose you discover I'm getting close to Brahman, and then that kind of wisdom will dawn in your mind that there is nothing which is in itself good or bad except we make it so.
Yes, go ahead.
Are all religions same in the end?
Are all religions the same ultimately?
Not the same. Religions can never be the same. Do you mean, do they have the same goal?
That's what I meant, yes. Do they ultimately reach the same goal?
Yes, all religions are aiming at this truth that I gave this morning, the Upanishad gave us this morning. All religions aim at giving the highest truth. Some of them make it and some of them don't.
Is this something some religion believes, or some religion they don't believe?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
In this ultimate goal or aim, is some religion or followers believe and some they don't. So why is that?
Well, he's saying if it's true that all religions ultimately climb the same mountain, reach the same goal,
Yeah.
why is it that you say some people believe one? And
Yeah, the different religion or sect people believe.
why do some people believe, sectarians believe that their religion is right and others are wrong? How do you explain the contradiction? Close?
Well, the contradiction is right there. We aren't in Brahman. We haven't all realized Brahman. Maya, I didn't talk about Maya this morning, but you have to have some kind of reference to Maya in order to answer your question. Maya is that mysterious power. Now, it also came from Brahman. Don't forget that. It's not something from outside. But Maya is that mysterious power of Brahman which twists things and makes things that should be in harmony in disharmony. It makes us, it covers us with ignorance. That's what its nature is. Its purpose is to cover us with ignorance. It covers those people with ignorance and tells them, my way alone is right. My way alone is right. That's ignorance embodied. That's the very embodiment of ignorance. But that too comes from Brahman, because everything has to come from Brahman. Okay? Try again.
I have a follow-up on my question.
Yeah.
So then could you say that the power comes from Brahman, that when, say, a person commits a lustful act or something, that it's their ego hijacking like Brahman's power to commit a lustful act? Or?
If a man engages in a lustful action, a bad action, is his ego hijacking Brahman?
Yeah, the power of...
Is the ego hijacking the power of Brahman?
Yeah, then misallocating it.
And misallocating it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what it's doing. We have appropriated to our own egotistic activity that very power which would carry us into the bosom of God if we took it in the right way. If we didn't misappropriate it, it would carry us to the goal. But because we misappropriate it, it takes us away from the goal instead of taking us to it.
For some old timers, I'll ask a follow up here. John Dobson. I remember him lecturing here about the mistake.
Yeah.
Is this similar to what John Dobson was talking about?
Yeah.
Your answer?
Of course. John had a very elaborate cosmology, which in my opinion was very sensible and was one of the nearest patterns that we can use to describe the situation that we find ourselves in. But I can't go into it now.
Yeah, of course. Basically, we get caught in that veiling process, the Maya that you referred to. Did I hear a question? Yep.
Yeah, so with regard to the story, because we were talking about the story that you talked about, it was just so everyone understood that the fire god thinks it's my power that, burns this.
Yeah.
They all think it's my power. My power glows. My power is fire.
Yeah.
But it's the prana which illumines the fire is Brahman. So.
Well, he was saying that, repeating his understanding that in the story at the end, the Agni thinks that it's Agni's power, but it's really not. It's something else. It's Brahman.
Yeah.
So that's with regard to the ego question and all that. We think I'm the one that has that power.
Yes, appropriating it to himself. He tries to blow the stick away, and the other one tries to burn the stick up. Neither of them succeeds. We often find our efforts are stymied in this life. We find that we don't succeed in what we're trying to do. And why don't we succeed? Well, Brahman is behind that too. We didn't deserve to succeed at that point.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, if we really believe in reincarnation, so does Swamiji believe that if everything is predestined, or if everything is going to happen because of your previous karmas in your previous lives, whatever is going to happen, therefore the Brahma will be awakening you when it is going to be awakened. So no wonder, no matter what I do or how hard I try, the Brahma will be awakened because of my previous karmas.
Well, I think that he's raising the philosophical question of free will. He's talking about the fact that we're reincarnating over and over, and karma is being generated. Help me with where you find.
Sorry?
Okay, give me the pithy question at the end.
Yes, if everything is predestined,
Yeah.
depending upon our previous karmas, so when the Brahma is going to be awakening ourselves, or when this power, spiritual Brahmasmi will be awakened, because when the time will come, it will be awakened. And if time is not right, no matter how much I read or how much I do things, it will not be awakened in me. So therefore, I will continue doing whatever I'm doing.
Okay, so
not leading towards the Brahma.
okay, so I think he's saying that regardless of my practices, regardless of what I do, isn't it the case that ultimately it's up to Brahman to reveal himself? And therefore, does it make any sense for me to engage in all of these practices
Brahman does not act. No action. If Brahman acted, there would be something else besides him. It cannot act because action requires two. One to be acting and one to be acted on. So Brahman, in the ultimate being, there cannot be any action whatsoever. That would mean two things. There's only one. So your question is not valid.
Probably the translation was not valid.
Well, just maybe he's pretty much asking that if our karma is what's binding us, and that has to work itself out. And then he's kind of saying where it comes in. Is there grace involved in that being revealed? Because we're being binded by all our past actions. So where it's a free will. So what's the solution? Is it he's asking why should we practice, but maybe practice is creating new, better karma. I don't know. That was he's asking, do we actually play a part in realizing Brahman, or is it something?
Well, I think it boils down to this question that you've addressed before about whether it's all God's grace that opens our eyes, or whether all the hard work of practice helps. I think that's what underlies.
This is the what do you call that? Conundrum of the whole thing.
Right.
We have to struggle all we can to do everything we can to achieve this goal. And when we get there, we discover we never had to do that because we were always there all the time. That's the odd conundrum about the whole thing. Somebody asked Kabir, the poet Kabir, how far is the distance between your state of realization and the goal? How long does it take to travel that path? And he said, "Oh, you are committing a sin to talk that way. There is no path. There's no path. When you get there, it all falls apart. You see that you were not the doer. You didn't do the good things. You didn't do the bad things. There was nobody but the Lord, nothing but deity that did everything, and you are in that deity, and you are that deity. It's indescribable. It comes as a stroke, a discovery at the end of the long struggle. You look back and you say, oh, that was a dream. I dreamt that I struggled. I dreamt it. It's a dream. I find that everything was done by the Lord. He was fooling us all this time. Yeah.
And have you reached that realization yourself?
Can't ask that question. That's a great question, but he'll never answer it.
Why not?
What is it? Why didn't she?
Have you reached that state
Are
yourself?
you a realized being?
Oh.
I already said you wouldn't answer it. I know you won't. But
Well, I have to ask the Lord. I don't know. I don't really know.
What about, you speak of the third stage of accepting the being? It's worded a little differently. The third stage of realizing that God is within you, or the being, or Brahman is within you.
First you think it's up in heaven, then you
I
think
can't hear you.
but that was it. First you think it's up in heaven, then you think it's
yeah, but I didn't hear the question,
Around.
Chad.
No, he's got it.
No,
Yeah,
but
the
it's not a
three
question.
stages.
What was the question? She's referring to you talked about the 3 stages of realization. You know, you look up here, you look wherever.
Yeah.
But what is the
Is
question?
he in the third stage of realization?
She's still trying to get you to answer the question. She must be a lawyer. She's asking the same question a different way. Have you reached the 3rd stage?
She's a businesswoman.
So have you seen?
She's obviously a businesswoman.
Are you convinced that it's here? It's not there. It's not here. It's here. That's what you.
Yeah.
You're.
How do you find that out?
No, at least
Are you
you're
convinced?
convinced.
Yeah.
You're convinced about it.
Oh, yeah. Long ago, I decided it was in here. That was my ego. My ego said it's in here. It's everywhere, you know. But the trouble is, we never think about the God who is inside, the immanent God, unless we are brought to it by some kind of book or teaching or preacher or something. I understand that, what's his name down here?
Rick Warren.
Rick Warren told his congregation, don't look for God in here, he's up there. Well, Rick Warren and I disagree. He's up there, of course he's up there, but he's also here. He's everywhere.
So, are our actions controlled by the Maya? And is it the struggle that, like Karma Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, all these are paths to come out of the Maya?
Does Maya control our actions?
Yes, yeah, that's about correct.
And
It controls all your actions so long as you allow it to. You have to take the thing in hand by yourself and say, I challenge Maya. I am not going to allow Maya to run my life anymore. I am going to see that it's run by Ishvara or Brahman, whatever you want to call it. I like the word divine being. I will let my life be run by the divine being, not by Maya anymore. I realize that I am engrossed in Maya. It has overwhelmed me, it has swamped me. I don't know what its tricks are, it tricks me at every turn. Please, Lord, let me have the straight party line.
Piece of work.
So the second part of his question was, are karma yoga, bhakti yoga,
yeah,
those are paths away from Maya, correct?
Through Maya. Pass through Maya. You can never get away from her. You can find out that she is after all divine, but that's the last word. We reject Maya in her present form because we are ignorant about her nature. When we discover the true nature of Maya, then we accept her as the Ishvara, divine love, divine being. Maya turns from being an enemy into being the beloved under the influence of sadhana, spiritual practice.
Yes.
So you say Rama, when you say Rama, you say it, and when you were talking to him, you said Rama can't do an action, and you corrected yourself when you said him. So if he does an action, does that make him a him and not an it? Sorry, this question is kind of confusing.
I think she's asking about, Alex, maybe you could help me, but she's saying when you talked about Rama doing an action,
Brahman.
Brahman. Brahman. Okay,
Yeah,
then I
she meant
understand.
Brahman.
So the basic question is, I think, does Brahman have a gender? Is that?
Well,
Oh no.
Well,
I
not really,
don't-
no.
No. Okay,
I
say it
think
again.
I understand it. The minute that action happens, then it becomes a gender. I think, right?
Like a human or like a
Like
being.
if it's actionless, it's it. But the moment it acts, then it becomes a he or she. Is that?
a being, yeah.
Does okay, Brahman, the actionless Brahman is it, but she's asking the moment like Maya happens, it's he or she. Is that's she's asking if once action happens, then it becomes a gender.
Because you corrected yourself when you said he. When you said
Well, you can put a gender on it if you want to. These days, people transgender all the time.
Was that it, or was
no, that's it.
Oh, gee, I wish I had that here again.
It's okay.
It's a confusing question. I don't really know how to word it.
Well, all the time, to have it go down.
You're doing good.
Great. Anybody else? Michelle?
I'm good, thank you.
Mark, have them repeat the statement you made a minute ago about how sadhana pierces Maya or Misappropriating.
Richard was impressed with the way that you talked about sadhana providing a path through Maya, and he'd like you to re-articulate that.
Maya stands at the present time as an obstacle to spiritual discovery, because Maya to us right now is a composite of all our past deeds, thoughts, learning, everything, decisions, our whole mental life, all of the mental life we've lived up until this life, up until now. Maya stands as an obstacle in that form. But if we take hold of that and try our best to surmount it, to overcome it, say suppose I have a bad habit, I want to get rid of it. Well, one of the best ways is to start by realizing that it's a part of the ignorance in which I am immersed. And I have a way out of that ignorance, so shown by people like Ramakrishna, Vivekananda, and the Buddha, Jesus, so on. There's a way out.
So it comes back to what was alluded to earlier about free will versus you're just subject to whatever your prior actions were.
He's reintroducing the prior question about the extent to which we have free will.
So there has to be an element
All right.
of effort. We do have some free will because we're struggling through sadhanas.
Swami Yogeshananda, our master on the right, tells us that there is no such thing as free will. That bothered me for a long time. It puzzled me because everybody talks about free will. All the psychologists talk about it, even the Vedantists talk about free will. But he says, and I think he's right if you analyze it, the will is a compound. It's a thing made up of parts. And freedom means something with no parts. So freedom is our goal. Freedom is our nature. Freedom is the truth. And the fact that we think we have no freedom or limited freedom or curtailed freedom is an illusion. We have to get over it.
So when we say I am not the doer, it sounds contradictory to what you just said.
Of course it is. Of course it is, so long as I means the little I. Until I means that universal I, everything is ridiculous. Everything sounds ridiculous. Yes, back there?
I have a question regarding kids. Like kids are more, or I would say like kids can experience Brahman more than us because they have pure soul and they can see the light. But maybe since they don't even know about it, so.
Do children have an advantage over adults in that being closer to Brahman and not having all the baggage that we adults have? Are they more?
Yes, I think so. I have often studied this question because I used to have to do a Sunday school. I think up to about the age of 7, a fixed ego, a fixed ego in the sense of a sense of identity as an individual, apart from my mother and father, my family, and so on, doesn't really rise. It's about the age of 7 that the child begins to think, oh, I'm alone, I'm different, I'm separate, I have something that is mine, alone. That comes later. And so, of course, they are closer to God. I'll tell you a little story. There was a girl who had a friend about 3 years younger than she. She was 6. She was about 6. The other girl was 3.5 or something like that. And this little girl, the littler girl, got measles or something, some contagious disease. And so she was quarantined, you know. And the older girl asked the mother, her mother, can I possibly have a little bit of talk with Susie? Susie was the little girl. The mother said, no dear, she's quarantined. Repeatedly she said, I want a little bit of talk. I want to talk to Susie. I want to ask Susie questions. So mother arranged with Susie's mother, and she was allowed to go near Susie as far as the door. She could stand at the door and she could ask her questions, and not go in to have contact. And the older girl's mother hid behind the door to listen. She wasn't supposed to hear it, but she went behind the door to listen. And what this girl asked Susie was, Susie, tell me about God. I'm beginning to forget. See? I'm beginning to forget at 6 years old.
Wow.
There's something going on in childhood that we don't know.
Did you make that up?
No, he said that.
He's fired as my You're fired.
Who do you think you are, Donald Trump?
No. Stay away from that.
Are there any female monks?
I didn't hear.
Are
Female
there any
monks.
female monks?
She wants to know if we have female monastics. Yes, of course.
Can we be male?
No, do in our order, she hasn't seen any of our nuns, so she wants to know.
Oh. We have a convent in Santa Barbara.
Oh,
And
And we do have
And in Hollywood.
and we do have nuns that come occasionally and speak to us, and they're wonderful. Yeah, yeah, they're wonderful. It's just there are fewer of them than there are males, so.
When you go out, Lizzie, when you go out, take the brochures that are from the wall there.
okay, okay, thank you.
This is their first time here.
Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, any more questions? It's getting close to 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
You have 10 more minutes.
You answered my question, like it's still age 7. So is it something we as a parent like can help our kids like after 7, like okay, at least they are not like us. Like to help them like stay more close, and maybe not we will not be able to make them 100%, but at least we can.
She's looking for parental advice. As the kids approach that magical age of 6 or 7, what can she as a mom do to help the child not lose sight of God?
Well, I'll tell you another story. There was a queen who had refused to marry, and she was persuaded, maybe with a hammer, to marry. And she was forced to marry. She wanted to renounce the world, and I guess women weren't doing it in those days. Queen Manalasa, married the king that was after her hand, and they had 8 sons. And every time that the son reached the appropriate age that he could understand, the queen went to his ear and said, Tvamasi Niranjanam, Tvamasi Niranjana, thou art the divine being, thou art the divine being. And the son, hearing that, began to analyze life, discovered himself, went off as a sannyasi. Well, this happened 7 times. And finally, the king, hey, I'm losing all my sons. I didn't marry you to have all my sons go away. So finally she had to desist so that he could have a prince. But she was a knower of God, and she saw to it that 7 of her 8 sons became knowers of God. And she did it by putting the doctrine in their ear as soon as they were able to understand it. You have to do that, but the danger is they may become monks.
Anybody else?
One more question? One more. All right. Thank you all for coming. Sorry I couldn't hear.